Welcome, bienvenidos a Casa Cabo. Just so you know, today we are going to do something that I love to do, which is discuss something as seen on Twitter. Now, it doesn't matter if it was before or after Elon. Twitter is always the place where I find some of the most interesting stories I've ever tackled on this channel. In fact, the Balenciaga story came from Twitter. Unfortunately, ever since Mr. Musk decided to purchase Twitter, the amount of hate and misinformation has grown exponentially. You cannot criticize Elon because you'll get your account suspended. There's a lot of stuff going on in that place right now. And it has come to the point where I spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I'll talk to my friends and I get out. I try not to stay there too long because it's infuriating. But nonetheless, and by the way, just to make this clear, I don't have a problem with people that don't agree with me politically, religiously, or anything like that. I have a problem with people that are overtly abusive in either direction. To give you an example, today there was a tweet that referred to Trump and how they should put him in jail and make him believe that he was president again and all this other stuff. And it hit me as a dig on dementia, and that it was from somebody that claims to be on the left. By the same token, the people on the right are always taking the fact that Biden stutters, which, by the way, I do as well, and they use that as an excuse to claim that his mental capacities are deficient because he has dementia. So both sides accuse the other side of having a leader with dementia, and it's infuriating. But today we're going to talk about Joshua Lisec. I hope I'm saying his name right. And this person decided to make a thread. What you're seeing right now is his Twitter account. He decided to make a thread about superheroes, female superheroes to be exact, or not all of them were superheroes, but most of them were. Anyway, today that's what we're going to talk about. Hi, my name is Roxana. This is Metamorphosis Rocks. We just talk about whatever tickles our fancy. This is the perspective of a Puerto Rican 56-year-old woman who doesn't really have a filter anymore because nobody else seems to care that, we're supposed to be decent to other human beings. So my filters are not that bad compared to everybody else's. So let's talk about Joshua Lisec, shall we? Now, the reason why I decided to pick on this particular story is because I always find it fascinating when a man decides to talk about female lead characters in movies or shows or books or anything and make his whole dissertation just to hide his misogyny behind intellectualism. And why do I say that? Well, Joshua Lisec is a professional writer. And he decided to make this entire thread about how Ray, Galadriel, Captain Marvel, and Bo Peep, and when he's referring to Bo Peep, he's referring to Bo Peep in the Toy Story movies, are all examples of bad female characters because, and we're going to talk about it. The difference between every time I do one of these and this particular time is that I actually did not read the whole thread because I'm going to be reacting to it as I do a dramatic reading. Because this one deserves a dramatic reading because it's not that serious. I mean, his misogyny is serious, but maybe he can change my mind about what he's saying. Now, who is Joshua Lisec before we get into his thread? Well, he is a ghostwriter, a professional writer. He's written several books, and if you see the title of the book it's a series that's about to come out now or just came out recently, something about that title. But from everything I went looking around on the internet, he has a company that helps other people become ghostwriters. He also emphasizes that he made $1 million in 1 year. Now, he is a TED talker. He likes to give speeches and all this other stuff. And one of his he's a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. So he follows that model where you write a book and then you go and talk in different places. And the reality is that I'm suspecting that the majority of that $1 million came from speaking fees and not from the books. But the books are kind of like the advertising for you to get the speeches in the first place. And that's, I think, where he makes the most money. He also makes money teaching other people how to ghostwrite, how to make money writing. And he, of course, does ghostwriting. Now, I also checked to see how much a ghostwriter would make. And as you can see on the screen, it's about $60,000 the high end per book. To be fair, we don't know how many books he writes a year. We don't know how many speeches he does a year. Some speakers can charge $10, $20, $30, $100,000 per speech, depending on how good they are and what their career demonstrates. He's young, he's in his 30s, so he has the stamina to go to different places and do all these things. So, yeah. But here's the thing. We're going to talk about a phenomenon called the Mary Sue phenomenon. And before I go into reading the speech, I want to tell you what the Mary Sue thing is. Because to be honest with you, I had no idea what the Mary Sue thing was. I just couldn't understand. So I went to a place called TV Tropes. And it says, Mary Sue is a derogatory term primarily used in fanfic circles to describe a particular type of character. This much everyone can agree on. What that character type is exactly differs wildly from circle to circle and often from person to person. The name Mary Sue comes from the 1974 Star Trek fanfic A Trekkie's Tale, originally written as a parody of the standard self-insert fic of the time, as opposed to any particular traits. The name was quickly adopted by the Star Trek fanfiction community. Its original meaning mostly held that it was an always female author avatar, regardless of character role or perceived quality. Often the characters would get in a relationship with either Kirk or Spock, turn out to have a familiar bond with a crew member, be a half-human hybrid, masquerading as a human, and die in a graceful, beautiful way to reinforce that the character was too good for this sinful earth. Or space, as the case may be. Even back then, there wasn't a total consensus on what was or wasn't Mary Sue, since it's not always immediately obvious which character is an author avatar. As this essay reveals, suspiciously Mary Sue-like characters were noted in subscriber-submitted articles from 19th century children's magazines, making this trope older than you think. And it goes on and on to explain what different types of Mary Sue, what a typical Mary Sue character is, etc. Now, why am I bringing up the Mary Sue thing? Because, well, I read enough of the thread, the first two posts to be exact, to know that he's going to bring it up. So let's go ahead and have a dramatic reading and an even more dramatic, I feel, reaction, because I have a feeling I am going to have quite the reaction about this. So, the thread starts. Ray, Galadriel, Captain Marvel, Bo Peep. Why are modern female heroes so unlikable? And what does that mean for us professional writers? It all starts with Mary Sue. All four characters are a variation on the Mary Sue trope. A Mary Sue is a female protagonist who can overpower foes with ease, but without the backstory to explain her personality, values, agenda, or those abilities. Now, one thing, I don't know if you noticed that in TV tropes, they did mention that pretty much everybody has their own definition of what Mary Sue is. The reason why I read you the standard, for lack of a better word, is so that you would see the differences between what this person says and what the Mary Sue trope says. Now, if you look at this particular image, you have the Star Wars character comparison, Mary Sue, know your meme. And you have Luke Skywalker, his father, Anakin Skywalker, and you have Rey. And in overpowered, you have both Anakin and Rey overpowered. Unexplained power level, the only one that is got the check mark is Rey. Perfectly good, Luke Skywalker and Rey. No personality, Luke Skywalker and Rey. Instantly liked. Luke Skywalker is not instantly liked, but the other two were. Not true. And by the way, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I've been forced to watch every single movie, and I'm about to start watching everything in order, sort of. So I know enough to know that. Well, let's just say that this instantly like thing is incorrect. Feels like wish fulfillment. Only Rey. Not embarrassed. Fails. Rey. I guess he's trying to prove that she's a Mary Sue. Mary Suing a character is how you botch the hero's journey. In a typical hero's journey, the protagonist is weaker than the villain in every tangible way. That's important when you're considering the odds of who's going to win. And he has a picture of Luke Skywalker, who was obviously much weaker than his father, Darth Vader. I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you, but at this point, this movie's been out since 1973, 77, so please spare me. But the hero is always set apart from the antagonist by one important quality. The hero does not believe the ends justify the means. The antagonist always does believe the end justify the means. That's the fatal flaw of the antagonist, and that's why we root for the hero. First of all, maybe it's because I'm old. Maybe it's because this person is in their 30s and they didn't watch the movies in order. But if you watch the original 3 movies, the ones that came out in the 70s and 80s, you will find out that at that particular point in the story, Darth Vader has no reason to be what he is and who he is. We don't know anything about his past. We don't know that he's burned under that thing until the last scene of the freaking movie, the 3rd movie. We really don't know anything. We just know that this is a bad mofo that just kills people when they piss him off. That's all we know. Okay? So this whole the end justify the means? No. In every timeless story, the hero becomes great by overcoming their tangible weaknesses. Man or woman, doesn't matter. The hero or heroine's journey dictates this change must occur. But Mary Sue, she starts at the end of the hero's journey. Now let's go back to Rey for a second. If you haven't seen the last 3 Star Wars movies, Rey's character, when the movie starts, she doesn't. Yes, she has some abilities and some skills, but she's really raw. Like, she doesn't know exactly what her role is in life at all because she thinks she's just supposed to scrimp and save for the rest of her life. So, yes, she does have character development, which is what he's trying to go at. We see a character who has completed her arc, but at the start of the story. Ben Solo trains in combat his whole life. Rey is a mechanic. The first time they fight, she slays his ass. That's not how an antagonist versus protagonist first battle is supposed to go. I'll give him half a point on this one, and I'm going to tell you why. Yes, that is true. That first fight was a disaster, but the whole idea that Ben was trained all his life, that's not entirely true. You find out pretty much later on that there was something that happened, okay? Something happens in his life, and he hasn't been training as a Jedi for a very long time, and things happen. So he's not, let me put it to you this way, he has risen up the ranks because he is Darth Vader's grandson, not because he's that great. He has skills, he definitely has skills. He absolutely has the Jedi powers, but he doesn't, how do I explain this? He's really not that great at keeping his cool so that he can control his powers. I guess is the best way to say it. So no, I'm not surprised that he lost. I'm surprised that she won, but not surprised that he lost. These Mary Sues are depicted as unlikable but strong. That's the opposite of how a story should start. Any new protagonist must be introduced in a hero's journey story arc where they're likable yet have weakly behaviors or they're dedicated to a sickly extent to their values. Let me start by saying, let's look at a couple of men, okay? I don't know where does this man go with this, because the first time you see the Dark Knight, not Batman, the regular one, I mean the Dark Knight, you don't like him. Or at least I know I didn't like him. Because he's pompous, he's arrogant, he's rich, he thinks he deserves everything. And, you know, he really doesn't have any powers. Very much like Iron Man on the other side. Iron Man is not a likable character from jump. So when he goes and compares Marvel to men, what exactly is he using? Another character, if you watch, well, I watched both, so I don't know which one was which, but if you watch the Justice League, actually in both they do the same thing. I love me some Jason Momoa, but he was not the most likable person in that freaking crew. Let's be honest. So let's continue. Not so for Mary Sue. Consider Galadriel from the Rings of Power debacle. She and her 11 friends find a troll in one particular scene. The troll starts killing her friends, whom she must have known for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. And Galadriel waits. I can't talk about that because I've never been a fan of the Lord of the Ring stuff. I watched the original 3 movies and I refuse to watch everything else. I do have the book. I might read it for the channel at some point, but I can't give you any on that. She stands back all stoic while her friends are butchered. Then with little help from her posse, she hops up there and cuts and chops the troll with stupid Hollywoodese. No risk to her, victory without effort. Dead friends everywhere. But if you're saying that the troll was killing her friends, exactly how was that no effort? Again, I haven't seen the episode, so I can't talk. Compare that scene to when the Fellowship of the Ring confronts the cave troll in Mines of Moria. Everybody fights, nobody quits, and only by working together can the weaker heroes defeat the stronger enemy. Alright, let me say one thing about that. I don't think it's the same director. So that is on the director, not on the actual characters, number one. Number two, because I haven't read the book, I don't know what happened. But if that is the first time, and I'm speculating here, I'm just spitballing here. If that is the first time she's confronted by some sort of evil, chances are she's going to be shocked. And unlike the guys in the Fellowship of the Ring, which many of them, I do believe, hold on, let me think. It was Legolas, and it was 1, 2, 3, at least 5 of the guys that were in the group were actual military men, so it would stand to reason that they would be ready for a battle. Working together to defeat a powerful enemy that would otherwise vanquish the heroes? Modern female heroines don't do that. They don't even act like real human beings. Oh my god. Okay, apparently I am not going to change my mind about this guy on this. But let's review this for a second. Let's go back to Rey, because that's the story I know. If you've watched the Star Wars movie, you know that she works with Poe? I can't remember the name of Jason Boyega's character, but John Boyega. I'm sorry, I still have Jason Momoa in my mind. John Boyega's character, but she works with him the entire time, so I don't see where he's going with this. And Jason Isaac's character too. No commander in combat holds back and watches as her underlings are crushed by a monster. That doesn't happen unless it's the villain. Yep, that's what the villain does. Watches and waits. No empathy. Now, let me start by saying that in real life, generals don't go to battle. They just send their underlings. So what the hell is he talking about? Remember when Darth Vader takes Princess Leia's ship? You know Vader is the bad guy. He sends his stormtroopers in to kill and be killed. Then he saunters in to torment anyone in his way. And that is true. But that's how they did the introduction of the character, number one. And number two, again, this is a director's point of view, not necessarily the character or how it was written. Mary Sue starts off like Darth Vader, full-fledged antagonist. We don't get to see who they could have become. We can't relate to them because they're perfect or perfectly evil. Where can your story go if you begin with the end? Okay, now he has a Captain Marvel image. If you have seen Captain Marvel, and if you haven't, then you need to stop listening to me right now. But if you've seen Captain Marvel, you know that you have flashbacks where you get the whole story of where she started and where she's going. I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but I can tell you that there was character development there. That he didn't see it because this is a man, that's another story. Your story can only go backwards if you start off with a perfect, quote-unquote, character. And so the character arc requires the female protagonist to act like the villain. You have to let your friends die when you could have saved them for the plot. No. What we love about female heroes is their uniquely feminine perspective, in addition to their heroism, courage, sacrifice, and empathy. But the Mary Sue? That's all gone. They take everything we love about great women and trash it. Here's the thing. The reason why he likes to trash these women is because you know from jump that these are going to become the most powerful women in the group. For example, Captain Marvel is the most powerful Avenger. Until you get Wanda. But that's another story for another day. Rey is the most powerful Jedi. Which one was the other one? Bo Peep. Bo Peep is not the most powerful character in the freaking Toy Story movies. I don't know what he's talking about. And the other one he mentioned, who right now my brain escapes me who the other person was. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, Galadriel. Have you seen the 3 movies? Because if you would have told me Galadriel in the movies was not likable, Cate Blanchett did an excellent job playing that character, and she was both very soft and very powerful. More powerful than most men. I think that's where the problem is for this guy. Consider a well-written heroine mentioned earlier. Princess Leia holds the moral high ground while menacing Darth towers over her. She'll do anything to protect her people, and yet she falls for the bad boy even though she knows she shouldn't. That's a real woman. Are you getting where he's going? Are you getting where he's going? Because I am. How do we know Princess Leia is a good, strong female lead? Recall when Grand Moff Tarkin makes her watch as her planet is smithered out of existence. She's the maiden in distress, tortured by the machinations of an evildoer, but she doesn't give up, because this man likes the damsels in distress. That's all it is. The end of her planet and her people doesn't crush her. No, she grows stronger from her pain and goes on to lead the rebels to victory. Understand this. A feminist character from the 1970s does more to celebrate the heroic feminine than female protagonists written today. I completely disagree. But we'll keep going because this man is so arrogant that this thread is ridiculously long and we have to keep going. We, the public, are done with the flat Mary Sues who are unrelatable and do nothing but regress into ugly villains. At the same time, audiences also don't want to watch one-dimensional trad wives who submit to their husbands' every demand. That's a Mary Sue inversion. Also boring. If you don't know what a trad wife is, and by the way, the reason why I'm explaining it to you is because I didn't know what a trad wife was. Trad is short for traditional. Do with that what you may. We want and need female heroes women can aspire to be and that audiences of all ages can enjoy. We need more heroines like Eowyn. I'm trying to remember who she was in The Lord of the Rings, but I can't. So, I think if my memory serves me, she started out as a damsel in distress and then she decided to dress up like a soldier and fight. Ironically, but mind you, at no point do you find out how she learned to fight. But he's missing that point on that one. She's torn between devotion to her family and the duty she feels for her people. Yeah, that's exactly who that is. She's courageous and fights with what strength she does have. She can't fisticuff like Legolas or Aragorn, but she does what she can with honor. She's a real woman, and we love her for it. I actually saw that movie. She felt like she knew what she was doing. Shut up. What have we learned, Anon? The Mary Sue is the antithesis of a real woman and a good person. Her ubiquity is pop culture makes audiences dislike female antagonists in general. Instead of admiring them like we do Princess Leia or Eowyn, we find them unlikable at best. The only people that have a problem with strong female leads are weak men. I said what I said. And now I have more bad news. You know who the worst purveyor of the Mary Sue trope is? It's not Hollywood. It's you. If you write your own story, own experiences, even your own book, like you are a blemishless hero, born perfect in every way, you just Mary Sue yourself. No one will relate to you. No one will like you. And no one will buy your high ticket offer. This is where he starts moving from telling you what he thinks to selling you something. Anyone can say they have all the answers, and thousands of con men, women, and charlatans do every day. Or what's harder to fake? The journey. I hear cope and excuses like, I can't talk about when I was weak because then no one will trust me. You have it backwards. No one will trust you if you don't share your journey. Your before versus after. Again, here we go into the selling. My client, Dr. Aviddiva, tells of being a fat doctor than losing 100 pounds. Another client, Bushra Askar, shares what it's like starting a business in a literal closet, then becoming a household name. Their books win big. They show their work, not just their results. Sharing your entire journey is part of the hero's journey template I use when I write best-selling memoir mashups. So this thread isn't my gut instinct talking out of turn. This is the storytelling process that has worked across all people for all time in all places. Your book must create the strongest possible emotional response in your readers. You want results like, I fix hearts here. I see this all the time with my clients who use my templates. And this tweet says, I ordered 3 copies of your book to give as Christmas presents to relatives and a good friend. I also ordered Chris Palmer's Brain Energy for an adult child who has suffered with bipolar her whole life. And now, you're convinced that the Mary Sue trope hurts female protagonists in society in general. You are convinced that perfect is a terrible idea for how to portray yourself in your book. Great news! I can help you avoid the Mary Sue trope trap. Now, if you look at what I have after the fact, you can see that I actually included some of his commentary, like, I have 1 million impressions. Let me tell you a little bit about impressions here for a second. His claim is that this particular tweet went viral and he made a lot of money out of it and he sold a lot of product. He hasn't convinced me of anything. And the fact that he talks at the end like he is the expert, and he claims to be an expert, so I'm not surprised by that part, okay? But he's talking like, now you're convinced that the Mary Sue trope is bad. Yeah, the Mary Sue trope sounds bad, but you didn't prove it. What did you prove? That you think that female leads that are strong women from jump, that find some hurdles along the way and they have to learn to figure it out, those are not character developed? Let me tell you something. I've read books about people that used to have it all and for some reason had a midlife crisis or had an accident or something happened to them and they had to start from scratch. That's just the same as Captain Marvel and I'm assuming what's her face on Lord of the Rings. I don't know because I haven't looked at the show. Rey was a mechanic. Rey had a lot of character development. Yes, on the first movie, she grabbed the thing. And what you have to understand is how the Star Wars lore works. If you have the powers of the Jedi, even if you haven't developed them yet, some things will come automatically to you. So, again, not surprised that she could use the sword. But here's the thing. It's very easy for you to talk down to women like this and then, retweet yourself 1 million times and get 1 million impressions. Now, let me explain about impressions for a second, because I started and then I sidetracked. Impressions is how many times people see your tweet, not necessarily how many times they read it. How do I know this? Well, because I had one tweet that went kind of sort of viral not too long ago, and I'm still working on the video for that. But here's the thing. If let's say you write a tweet and you get 100,000 impressions, okay? And you only have like 1,000 followers, so you're like shocked. The reason why you have 100,000 impressions is because it went by the page of 100,000 people. That doesn't mean that they read it. I have 200, 500 tweets at a time that I just scroll by and I don't read any of them. All those people are going to get one impression out of that because I actually saw it, but I didn't read it. So the actual numbers that you want to see are actually not how many impressions you got. Now, does that mean that he's lying when he says that it went viral? No, absolutely not. According to him, and according to what I'm seeing that the screenshots that he took, he absolutely went viral. But I don't think it means he's going to claim whatever he wants to claim. But here's the thing. There was one point, and I'm trying to remember where oh, crap, no. There was one point where he said that he had 1 million impressions. If you look at it, it says he got loved. Somebody liked his comment. That's another thing. You have to look. If you looked when I showed you each one of the posts, I left how many likes, how many retweets, and whatnot. They diminish. This is not his fault. This happens to everybody that writes a thread. Everybody focuses on the first one, and most people don't even get to the end of this. And considering how long this was, I'm not surprised. But he got 5.12K, which means he got 5,120 or something or so likes. He got 1,570 shares. And he got 383 comments when he did that particular screenshot. He got more later on. And that's the thing. Do I think that that's a big deal because he got a 1 million, impressions? No. Because even on small content that might have like 30 impressions, you'll get one comment or two. So percentage-wise, you're doing better than he is. Do I believe that he made $1 million? Absolutely. When I was looking for information on this guy, he has tops everywhere, not just on TED Talk. He goes everywhere and he promotes himself very well. I cannot say yes or no to the fact that he made $1 million in 1 year. He might have, he might not have. Again, the average ghostwriter makes $60,000 per book. How many books would you have to write to make $1 million? Or how many books combined with how many sales of your templates, or how many, because he also has calls, he has other things on his page. And that's what I want you, whenever you see somebody, keep in mind that a lot of people say some very crazy things online to get your attention. Whether they believe on them or not is a different story. Now, I believe wholeheartedly that this guy thinks that he is what he says he is, and that he believes that these characters prove the Mary Sue trope. I completely disagree with him. That doesn't make me any better than him, by the way. I'm just saying, to me it sounds like he just doesn't like the fact that these girls that are coming down the pike are more confident in themselves. And by the way, now that I say that, when Princess Leia starts the movies, and I mean the original 3, Princess Leia is a badass. She doesn't wait for anybody. She's trying to figure out how to get out before they show up. And yes, they rescue her because, again, the movie was made by a man and the men involved were a little misogynistic. If you see their content, you'll understand why I'm saying that. But the reality is that even though they're a little misogynistic, they still gave her the ability to do things on her own. She was already a princess. And she was already a badass when they rescued her. And she went ahead and grabbed guns and shot people and took care of business. So this whole idea that women have no power and they have to be rescued and then learn a skill in order to defend themselves and take over the world, no, that's not how it works. Not always. And the fact that you don't like a particular movie or a particular show or a particular story doesn't mean that you can implant your view of how this works on every work that you see out there. Thank you. If you made it this long, thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. And I can't wait to see what you say. Thank you to all of you for watching, and thank you to my patrons. Have a great day.